Two men who could not be any different.
Oh!
Spear!
It could be it!
By
It could be it!
Cover! And the Fiend got the shoulder up. He kicked out. Goldberg from out of nowhere with a spear to the Fiend. And look at the look of disbelief on Goldberg's face. And now the mandible claw. The mandible claw by the Fiend to Goldberg.
That look was the first morsel of doubt I've seen on the face of Goldberg.
And Goldberg down to a knee. The Fiend with a mandible claw locked in. Goldberg backs him to the corner. Goldberg out. And another spear! Goldberg with two spears to the Fiend. He survived the mandible claw. Goldberg back to his feet, stalking the Fiend. Spear! A third spear. Goldberg is in hunt mode.
Goldberg realizes what he's up against, that the Fiend is no normal being.
The Fiend back to his feet. Goldberg with another spear. Cover on the champion. And a kick out. A kick out again by the Fiend. You gotta be kidding me.
It's gotta be terribly disheartening for Goldberg.
Hello and welcome to Neutral Wrestling. I am your host Daniel. Super Showdown talk incoming. The big news. Goldberg, yes, Goldberg, Bill Goldberg, 53-year-old Bill Goldberg is your new Universal Champion after beating the Fiend, beating the guy they've built up since what? Post-WrestleMania last year. He's ran through everyone. He's kicked out of 35 curb stomps. He's beaten Daniel Bryan repeatedly. The Miz. He's beat down everyone. But along comes Bill Goldberg and defeats the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, in what? 4 spears? 1 awful jackhammer? And that's it. 1, 2, 3. The belt is taken off the modern day superstar and is put on Bill Goldberg. Right, so that is basically the main takeaway from the show. Twitter has absolutely imploded from this story. Now, despite that intro, yeah, I'm sure you're expecting a big rant like all these other podcasts will probably be doing. So if you're looking for the big rant of screaming and shouting and cancelling the network, then maybe you should go and listen to them. Because whilst I didn't agree with everything booking-wise on the show, disagreed with a lot of it, I wasn't as offended maybe as everyone else. Sure, you'll have all seen some of my tweets by now, but that was just, do you know what I mean? A little bit of fun and games going on there. But, so, I'm going to start off with, so, the big takeaway. So, Goldberg wins the title off the Fiend with, 4 spears and 1 jackhammer. Yeah. Okay? So, now, the exact same thing happened if people are forgetting to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, the most, protected guy in WWE, 3.5 years ago. Brock Lesnar did then get his revenge on Goldberg. Now, I'm not saying that Bray Wyatt is definitely going to get that, but there's a lot of things. So basically, the outline is what the plans were. The plans were Roman Reigns versus The Fiend for WrestleMania. Yeah, the main event of WrestleMania, Roman Reigns versus The Fiend. But as reported last week from, I think, The Observer, those plans had changed and the main events of WrestleMania going forward would be Goldberg versus Roman Reigns and John Cena versus The Fiend. Now, the big question going into this was, who was going to go in as champion? Was Goldberg going to go in as the champion to defend against Roman Reigns? Or was The Fiend going to go in as champion defending against John Cena? For me, I'm gonna be. It's all about giving your opinion on it. For me, if it came down to it, I would have gone with The Fiend defending the title against John Cena because, as people have alluded to on Twitter, Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, is your big modern day star that you've built up all year round. So to me, if you build someone up all year round, you have them wrestle at WrestleMania. It's just, for me, it's the way that it should go. But it just shows the lack of confidence that Vince, that WWE have in their top superstars. If they don't think that they're, the guy they've pushed all year round is big enough, is well known enough, is hot enough to go into WrestleMania, main event the show, and potentially drop the title to Roman Reigns. They don't think that that is going to be the draw that is going to get people to subscribe to the network, and if the rumours are true, they don't believe that that match is going to get people to pay hard-earned cash on... Well, the rumour is, if people have been living in a box, that ESPN are going to be buying WrestleMania and selling it at, what, $60, $65, $70. Whether that'll happen, do you know what I mean? We don't currently know, but the strong rumours are that someone is going to pick up WrestleMania and charge a very expensive price for it. So WWE basically told us that if that is the case, then they do not have the faith that Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns is going to do that. So they need Goldberg. They need a big star. And I can sort of understand where they're coming from. Do you know what I mean? They're going with, we want the money now. We need to make money now. But my argument is, which I'm sure the people who were fuming about the Goldberg victory is, sometimes maybe you have to have a few years of maybe not selling as many WrestleManias as you'd like to get these current day stars ready to be able to draw the fans in to buy pay-per-views for a WrestleMania. I mean, so say 12 months ago, yeah, Becky Lynch, which, yeah, she was hot, wasn't she? Everyone loved her. I loved her. All the crowd loved her, yeah. But she wasn't... I'm not saying she's completely mainstream now, but main event in that WrestleMania with Ronda Rousey and Charlotte certainly made it... She's basically one of the top people in the company. She solidified that status by going to WrestleMania, main eventing, winning the title. So that certainly helped her on her journey of becoming one of the top people in the company, and you'd easily slot Becky Lynch into main event of WrestleMania again down the line. Potentially, you'd probably prefer that to be with a Ronda Rousey. But what I'm saying is, you're never going to get these guys to the level of a Goldberg, to the level of John Cena, unless you thrust them in and have them main event WrestleMania. I mean, look at John Cena himself. Yeah, John Cena was popular when he was opening shot WrestleMania 20 against the Big Show. He beat JBL for the title at WrestleMania 21, and what did they do? They thrust him in. They had him main event WrestleMania 22, main event WrestleMania 23 against Shawn Michaels, against Triple H, against the established guys. I mean, in 2002, Triple H was probably at the same stage of his career of, say, a Roman Reigns, yeah? Roman Reigns is the top guy in the company. Triple H at that period was probably the top guy in the company, yeah? So you had John Cena go in and defend his title against the Triple H. You could have had The Fiend. If you see The Fiend as one of the top guys in the company, and you want to get him at the same level as a Roman Reigns, then have him go into WrestleMania and defend the title against Roman. I personally, I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm not the biggest Fiend fan. I've always been a Bray Wyatt fan, but I sort of preferred the gimmick he had going into WrestleMania 30 against John Cena. A lot of people, but I'm just going to take it on the chin because 95% of people seem to love this Fiend gimmick. I'm not saying I dislike it. I just preferred the other one. I mean, I'm going to be sat there at WrestleMania. I can't wait to see the Fiend's entrance. For me, it's just, I don't know, it's a bit corny. It's a bit, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'd fancy having it on the TV with my friends who aren't wrestling fans walking in while he's in this Firefly funhouse and thinking, well, what's this idiot watching? But, to be honest with you, I don't give a shit what my friends think, actually. But I'm saying the average, 17-year-old lad who's, like, not comfortable with the fact that he's a complete loser and loves wrestling like I am might feel like that. But the Fiend gimmick is over. It is over, whether I'm a huge fan of it or not. I mean, I don't mind it, but it's over. So it's the best thing you've got right now. So it clearly is, because the uproar that I'm getting, the feedback that I'm getting on Twitter just shows how over the Fiend gimmick is, and that people wanted to see this Fiend gimmick go into WrestleMania and defend the title against Roman Reigns. I mean, it does ring bells of, like, sort of the time you had CM Punk. You had CM Punk dominate all year, and then because you wanted The Rock versus John Cena, you took CM Punk out of it, yeah? So it's just a question of, is that the right decision? Maybe that year you made a lot of money with The Rock, John Cena, so maybe it was the right decision. But if you want to make a CM Punk a superstar, CM Punk, as we know, never main evented a WrestleMania. Maybe if he had done, he'd be here now as an absolute giant star. Who knows? We'll never know, because CM Punk was taken out of that spot of main eventing WrestleMania. I just feel that if you've worked your ass off all year round, maybe you do deserve to main event WrestleMania. I mean, you might have all seen the Roman Reigns interview at the press conference for WrestleMania 37 in LA. He said himself, he was asked, who would you sooner face at WrestleMania, Goldberg or The Fiend? He straight up said, I'd sooner face The Fiend. No disrespect to Goldberg, but The Fiend has been here every week for the last 10 months, busting his ass. So it must be disheartening when you're one of the top guys, you've done your best, and then you just said, right, no, this other guy's the bigger draw. But it's tough, because I can see both sides to this. I mean, the WrestleMania card for me. Now, with WrestleMania, so I'm looking at the matches that are lined up, and I've sort of given up on going to WrestleManias and seeing 4.5-star great technical wrestling matches. That's not what I go to WrestleMania for anymore, because I've been trained that that's not what I'm going to see. Long gone are the days of The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels classics at WrestleMania. Long gone. So now I just want big matches, because WrestleMania is just a spectacle. That's what it is. And you look down this card for people, we're going to talk more in detail about the card for a further show, but if you look at the card, it's going to be Goldberg, they're not confirmed, but we know what they are. Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. Big match to outside fans. Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. John Cena versus The Fiend. Now, that's a great story that can be told from 6 years ago, because a big travesty for me in Bray Wyatt's career was even bigger than dropping the title. This affected Bray Wyatt's career more than losing to Goldberg last night did. And that was when John Cena beat Bray Wyatt clean, when he was hot as he's ever had been at WrestleMania 30. Yeah? So, The Fiend getting his big win over John Cena 6 years later is going to be big for Bray Wyatt. John Cena coming back is going to be huge, yeah? And Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, going over John Cena at WrestleMania is going to be massive. Would it have been even bigger if it had been for the belt, with Cena going for this 17th title to beat Ric Flair's record? Yes, it would. I would have preferred to see that story be told of John Cena's beat Bray Wyatt before, and he's coming to win his 17th title against Bray at WrestleMania. But they've chose not to do that. They've chose to go with Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, Spear versus Spear. And it's a huge match for the title. So, I understand the criticism, but I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect it to be as big as it has been. I mean, I put a tweet up, I thought I'd do a little bit of stirring last night. 4 spears and an absolutely horrific jackhammer, and at 53 years old, Goldberg just beat the man who's ran through everyone. The Fiend, as clean as a whistle. Goldberg is your new Universal Champion. What's everyone's thoughts on this? And some of the replies that I've got on this. Helen, gutted. What a crock of shit. Greg Ace wants WWE to suck her. Ryfig, just imagine if Reigns would have done it instead. Vince McMahon would rather the Spear versus Spear, because Bray Wyatt is right. If he loses to Roman Reigns, the crowd is going to react like that. We've got loads of gifs of people just hammering it. Well, what can I tell you? Not a good decision at all. Yes, Goldberg is a big star from the past, but right now, he's made the whole roster a joke. Someone else put bullshit. Someone else has put get the F out of here. Buried Bro, made no sense for the match to even happen. I'm done with WWE till the Fiend gets back, says Kaiser Gaming. Tiny Boy JJ, saw it coming, not happy about it at all. Stephen Finley, it sucked, all it is for ratings. Supermultiverse.com, complete nonsense. Dean has said 10 months of character investment for the company and the fans down the drain. Someone else put a gif up of Chris Jericho saying it's a stupid idea from bad creative. Josh has said this is actually worse than Hell in a Cell. Gonna have to disagree with you there, Josh. Flipping heck. I don't think much is going to top that debacle at Hell in a Cell. Shane, it's bullshit. Legend Killer, a big FU from Vince to the fans. You get the drift, don't you? Everyone hated it. Everyone absolutely hated it. But for me, I was more annoyed at Brock Lesnar beating Ricochet with Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet, yeah, right, so I was planning on doing a big Super Showdown review here, but nobody really cares about the other matches that took place. We'll run through them quickly, but at the end, this Brock Lesnar Ricochet match was basically Brock Lesnar hitting 3 or 4 suplexes on Ricochet, lifting him up on his shoulders, hitting an F5, hooking both legs. 1, 2, 3. Brock Lesnar retains. Ricochet, everyone, all we hear off people is, oh, Ricochet is one of Paul Heyman's projects. He's pushing him. It's like, you didn't even give him a go-home segment to build up the match on Raw. Ricochet wasn't even worthy enough of sharing the ring with Brock Lesnar to build up this match on the go-home show. And then you just destroy him in 50 seconds. Now, for me, Ricochet is more finished than The Fiend. The Fiend will be fine. The Fiend will come back. He'll beat John Cena, I'd assume, at WrestleMania. And he'll be fine after that. He'll probably challenge... I'll tell you what probably is going to happen. You're going to have Roman beating Goldberg at WrestleMania. You're going to have The Fiend beating John Cena. And then after WrestleMania, we've actually got a decent feud to go with Roman versus Bray heading into the summer. So from that point of view, maybe it's not the worst thing. But poor Ricochet, Ricochet has been absolutely destroyed. He looked like an absolute geek. I know people say, oh, well, the same thing happened to Kofi Kingston. But Kofi Kingston, before this, had just had a 6-month title reign where he'd gone over guys such as Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. So Kofi Kingston already had all that in the bank. Whereas Ricochet is starting at the bottom and on the rise. He has nothing. The crowd don't know who he is, really. Do you know what I mean? The mainstream. What's he done since he's been on the main roster? He doesn't have all the accolades that Kofi Kingston has. Someone can try comparing him to Randy Orton with me on Twitter. Randy Orton's had 15 years of being, maybe a 10, 12 something time champion. Do you know what I mean? The guy's a star. He's a household name, Randy Orton. Ricochet. So people were saying, oh, Brock Lesnar beat Randy Orton in 2-3 minutes with no offence. But this is Randy Orton. We're talking about Ricochet. Ricochet has been absolutely destroyed. And it's going to take a hell of a lot of repackaging and rebuilding up Ricochet to get him anywhere near that level. But for me, it just shows exactly what Vince McMahon thinks of Ricochet. That he's not worthy of the go-home segment. He's not worthy of even a punch on Brock Lesnar. Daniel Bryan got 18 minutes with Brock Lesnar. Finn Balor got, 8 minutes. Ricochet, 55 seconds and no offense. So clearly Vince McMahon does not consider Ricochet anything. So Ricochet, get yourself back to NXT. You're clearly not thought of on the main roster as anything. I know you seem to be happy to be there. You seem like a nice guy when I've looked at your social medias, but you'd be better off in AEW, my friend. But hey, some of these guys that signed for WWE before AEW came along, Ricochet, your Matt Riddles, I bet they would have been so much better off in All Elite. But hey, they're in WWE. So I was more annoyed at Brock Lesnar beating. Not annoyed, because to be honest with you, I know they don't like Ricochet. Do you know what I mean? It's obvious they don't think much of Ricochet. So it's to be expected. Ricochet's never going to be a world champion with WWE. But you would have liked to have seen him maybe get a bit more offense, but he didn't. And this was all about just having someone to sacrifice someone for Brock Lesnar going in to his match with Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. But I say I'm getting messages from people who are fuming at Tebbs. He's like fuming about the results of this match. We're having podcasters. I mean, the well-known podcaster. I don't like calling people out on the show. I've read a tweet of him this morning. He's saying it's the single worst decision from the booking team and Vince in the modern era of WWE, having Goldberg go over the Fiend. And it's not. It's not. Do you know what I mean? You're doing it. I can see it's frustrating because although I wouldn't have done it like that, I can imagine if you're a diehard Bray Wyatt fan, you might be annoyed. But Goldberg versus Roman for the title is a bigger match than Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns for the title. Yeah, it is. It's going to sell more pay-per-views. You just have to make the decision of, did you want to build towards the future maybe with Bray versus Roman, or did you want to go to the past? I would have preferred them to have done Bray versus Roman for the title and maybe done Cena Goldberg. But they haven't, and I don't think it's the worst choice. At the end of the day, when we're all sat there on WrestleMania Day and we're waiting for Goldberg versus Roman Reigns for the title, that is a huge match. Do you know what I mean? It's a huge match. You look at the Universal title matches last year, yeah? What was the Universal title match? It was Seth versus Brock. They had Seth Rollins go over Brock last year. What happened? Seth Rollins, the fans turned on him. He's lower down the pecking order than he was a year ago. So maybe they're thinking, that didn't do much, Seth versus Brock. What did that do for anyone? So let's get Goldberg in. Let's get Goldberg in, have this big giant match, Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. I mean, one of the complaints from the previous 2-3 years is Saudi Arabia seems to get all these huge marquee matches from the past, big matches, and then WrestleMania just gets like less. So you're looking at this Undertaker versus AJ Styles. Although why that's happening, I don't know, because at the start of this show, the Undertaker comes out, picks up AJ Styles, chokeslams him, and pins him. 1, 2, 3. So you ask yourself, why would that match now need to happen at WrestleMania? But that does appear to be the route that they're going. But as I say, the matches at WrestleMania, you've got Goldberg, Roman, Undertaker, AJ, Edge versus Randy Orton, Drew versus Brock Lesnar, Cena versus The Fiend, Becky Lynch versus Shayna. They're all big matches, yeah? So I'm sort of encouraged by the WrestleMania card. I mean, I would have maybe done a few things differently, but it is not the end of the world what's happened. Although I wouldn't have done it the way they've done it, at the end of the day, when I'm quick plug, I'm doing a vlog, yeah, we're doing a vlog at WrestleMania 36, so get subscribing on our YouTube channel, just search Neutral Wrestling on YouTube, subscribe, because we will be doing a daily vlog in Tampa for WrestleMania 36, and when we're talking, we'll be sat talking about the show the day after WrestleMania, and I guarantee we'll be saying, well, I hope we'll be saying, well, Roman's beat Goldberg, Bray Wyatt's beat The Fiend, Drew's beat Brock Lesnar, so you've got Drew and Roman going forward as your champions. You've got Fiend's big win, getting his big payback on John Cena for that horrific loss at WrestleMania 30. All is good, yeah, but you got these legends, whatever, back in for WrestleMania to sell the show. I'm excited for WrestleMania, yeah. I think people will, when the dust settles down, I think people realise it's not the worst booking decision. Yeah, sure, you might draw a few people listening to your shows, your podcast by complaining about it, but I love burying WWE. Although I love WWE, I love to criticise WWE. Nothing would have given me more pleasure than to plug this microphone in and just rant about WWE for half an hour. But I can see where they're going with it all. So don't think it's the end of the world. I can just see both point of views on it. So if you're someone who wanted to listen to a big rant, you didn't quite get it, but hopefully maybe I've given you a little bit of hope as to why maybe the booking decisions weren't the worst in the world. But one last thing that I did allude to on Twitter. So maybe Vince, although I don't think he's a genius, maybe he is. Maybe he thinks, right, everyone loves The Fiend, yeah? So if I get this 53-year-old to go in, spear, jackhammer, beat Bray Wyatt clean, they're all going to turn on Goldberg. They're all going to turn on him. Yeah. They're all going to hate Goldberg. 53-year-old Bill Goldberg's champion. He's out there on SmackDown. Boo. Who comes out? Roman Reigns. The saviour of the fans. Roman Reigns is here to save the fans of this 53-year-old Goldberg. And come WrestleMania Day, you're finally all going to... After all these years, you're finally going to cheer a Roman Reigns title victory at WrestleMania as he defeats that horrible 53-year-old Bill Goldberg. The fireworks go off. 60,000 people at Raymond James Stadium are on their feet chanting, Roman, Roman. It's not going to happen, is it? But in Vince McMahon's head, that might be what is going to happen. But who knows? We'll see. WrestleMania, I'm excited. Hope you're excited. That is the next big show, although we've got Elimination Chamber next Sunday, so we'll see about that. But yeah, so that's basically everything I wanted to say on the Goldberg title win. This show, Super Showdown, I guess we should talk about, seeing that was the topic of the show. It was one of the better Saudi shows, maybe. Was it? It wasn't really the best show. There was a lot of boring stuff on it. There were a few things that I did enjoy though. So the show starts off with the Memorial Trophy. We've spoke about that. R-Truth gets a roll-up win over Lashley. He gets a freak pin over Andrade. He gets a DQ win over Eric Rowan. So R-Truth has beat Eric Rowan, Bobby Lashley, and Andrade. So maybe they must be doing something. I predict maybe a segment at WrestleMania with R-Truth and maybe a celebrity. They're definitely doing something to try and get R-Truth over. The OC beat up Rey Mysterio. This leads The Undertaker to come out and challenge AJ Styles. Beats him with one chokeslam, pins him. That's how you're setting up Undertaker versus AJ Styles. Undertaker comes out, chokeslams him, pins him. And my question is, 1, why does the match need to happen? 2, is AJ really going to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania? Is he? Because really, if he's faced him at WrestleMania, surely you can't lose again to him. But, if I'd be surprised if Undertaker beats... If AJ beats Undertaker at Mania, but we will see. Big match for WrestleMania. Miz and Morrison versus The New Day. We did have a line where it made me laugh that Big E is slapping the Miz's ass, and Corey Graves on commentary goes, I think, to even Michael Cole Byron, "You may be the only person in this arena enjoying this," which did give me a laugh. The crowd, the ringside crowd, are going crazy for this Miz and Morrison chant, and they were really into this, really behind Miz and Morrison. And Miz and Morrison win the match and become your new SmackDown Tag Team Champions, as Morrison hits, I think, was it Kofi with the chair, and Miz gets the roll-up pin. So yeah, Miz and Morrison, your new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. This was the best match on the show, probably. I remember thinking when it was over, we probably won't see a better match than that all night. The crowd were into it. That's the theme of these Saudi shows. The crowd are into the matches at like the start of the show, and then they just seem to die. But yeah, this was the best match on the show. We have Engel Garza versus Humberto Carrillo, no Selena Vega. But they had a decent match. It was just basically, it was like a same version as their match on Raw, but with less crowd heat, and it wasn't as good as the match on Raw. At least there was no commercials, but exact same finish as Angel Garza gets a roll-up pin. Can't wait for that match on Raw. Rey Mysterio and Humberto versus Angel Garza and Andrade. I forgot about that then. But yeah, that should be a good tag match. So Angel Garza with his second consecutive win over Humberto Carrillo here. Next, we have Rollins and Murphy defeat the Street Profits. Fine match. I can't really go into these matches in detail because they were sort of like house show matches, really. But yeah, Rollins hits the curb stomp after the distraction and Murphy gets the pin. Mansoor versus Dolph Ziggler. Nowhere near as good as Mansoor versus Cesaro, but they had a fine professional wrestling match. Mansoor gets the victory with a moonsault that looked like a painful moonsault as the knee goes right into Dolph Ziggler's ribs. But yeah, nice win for Mansoor. I want to see him on American TV. Mansoor has got great facials. He can speak on the microphone. Get him out there. He seems like he's decent. Get him on NXT. Brock versus Ricochet, we've spoke about. Brock Lesnar just a couple of German suplexes, hits the F5. Ricochet is dead. So yeah, Ricochet's done for me. Bayley versus Naomi. Bayley traps Naomi's foot in her shirt, and it's a crappy little finish for the win in a very disappointing match. These two are rumoured to be facing at WrestleMania. This was the expected SmackDown Women's title match at WrestleMania, but they've gone with it here. Yeah, it was disappointing. I don't have any desire to see this match take place at WrestleMania. Next, we had Roman Reigns defeating Baron Corbin in a cage match. I enjoyed their match at the Royal Rumble, but this match didn't need to happen. The feud was already done for me. This match, actually, I've not even watched it because I lost my passport. I couldn't find my passport. I remember thinking, where's my passport? I used it last time I went out. And I thought, I'll just go and check my van just to make sure I've got it because I'm going to WrestleMania in 4.5 weeks. It's not there. It's not there. So during this match, I'm looking for everything around my house, trying to find it, panicking, ringing everyone, saying, I've left it at your house. Just turned out it had been moved into our letter rack. So yeah, found my passport. Roman Reigns wins the steel cage match. Great moments for everyone. Next, Goldberg defeats Bray Wyatt, which I think we've spoke about in enough depth already. 4 spears, jackhammer, and 53-year-old Bill Goldberg is your Universal Champion. Who'd have thought that? Imagine if you'd have said someone in 1999, when you get to the year 2020, the first title change for the main title in WWE is going to be Goldberg winning that title. But hey, so I don't want to go into too much. The show itself was just your typical Saudi show. People say they're just glorified house shows, which isn't really the case anymore, although a lot of the matches are like house show matches, because you do seem to be getting... The last 2 Universal title changes have taken place on Saudi Arabia shows. We've had a tag team title change on this show. So yeah, that's it. That's WWE Super Showdown. Don't really have much else to say as the road to WrestleMania sort of continues. I'm excited for the direction they're going for WrestleMania. We've got Elimination Chamber next Sunday. John Cena's returning on SmackDown tonight. So all I'm going to say is hope you enjoyed the show. Continue to support us, all our patrons. Really, really happy with how the Patreon's going. So continue to support us on Patreon. It is all appreciated. It's www.patreon.com/Neutral Wrestling. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts. Just search Neutral Wrestling. Follow us on Twitter at Neutral Res. You'll see me on there, Daniel from Neutral Wrestling. Also subscribe to the WWE versus AEW podcast, where we will be back early next week to review this week's Wednesday Night Wars and an extended version of a review from the big show on Saturday night, AEW Revolution, which I can't watch live because, believe it or not, I'm going to watch my team, Preston, play the team that Tony Khan owns. Preston are away at Fulham, so I will be on AEW Revolution Day. I will be at Craven Cottage at Tony Khan's football team, Fulham FC. Hopefully watch him North End continue to stay in the top 6. But doubtful because we're pretty shit, to be honest. But there you go. So we'll be back early next week with a review of Revolution. Until then, subscribe, enjoy, check us out on Patreon. Get ready for our vlog at WrestleMania 36 in Tampa. I am Daniel, and Goldberg is your new Universal Champion.
Goldberg, a 2-time Universal Champion, walking out of Saudi Arabia with that title. Immediate reactions to that?
Personally, I'll be limping out of Saudi Arabia. But, hey, man, it's an honor just to be here. And to be able to go out there and attain this belt again, this title again, it's a dream come true. It truly is. It's something you always shoot for, but the older you get, the further that pinnacle is away, you think. And I'm in awe. I had to hit him with everything I had as quickly as I could. Catch him on surprise, catch him off guard. It's like I did Brock. You got to hit guys before they're ready, especially at my age. So it worked. I'll just strike it up as another conquest.
Congratulations tonight, Goldberg.
Thank you very much, brother.